Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Straight Couch Talk podcast with Rachael Kulei and Erik Castillo. And today we are talking about skeletons in the closet. And how we came about this one is, when we first started dating, I'm going to go back to our second date. We went to the zoo, the Portland Zoo, for our second date, and it was around the time of, it was after Veterans Day, and so he knew that. Did you know that at that moment that the Vietnam Memorial Wall was right there?
No.
Oh, okay, so that's right. So when we were meeting there, he was already at the zoo, and I was showing up to the zoo, and I hadn't been to the zoo since the previous year when we were doing color guard there for Neva, and when they would do the color guard, I brought my eagle whistle, and I would do ceremony for them, and I drummed and sang for the color guard as we marched through the memorial and honoring and praying for all of the vets that had already passed, even though it wasn't Memorial Day. It was just something that we did to honor them. So I hadn't been there for a year since my grandma had passed and my grandpa passed, who were the chaplains of Neva, and so I already knew on the way there that I was going to have to face trauma in front of Erik. And I was trying really hard to suppress it and hide it. But by the time I was parking, I came around the corner and I saw the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and I lost it and I started crying. I was bawling. And so finally I park, and uh, I needed to have my tobacco, because I smoke sage and tobacco for prayer smokes and many other things that medicine is used for. And at that moment, I just needed a tobacco to release the pain I was feeling and to recenter myself. And um, so when he showed up to the car, I was a mess, and I had to be vulnerable, and it was already skeletons in the closet is coming out onto the table, and I had no choice but to tell him everything that was going on at that moment in time, and but he was able to comfort me in a way when I was thinking that maybe he would have been like, "No, this is too much. I'm gonna walk away." And even then, I'm like, I gotta have my tobacco. And I'm like, not a lot of people understand this unless you're Native American. It's barely any white people really understand it. And, or if you don't grow up in an indigenous, way or something. And being from that, he was in the military for so long, I was like, okay, he doesn't understand what this is. I'm gonna have to teach him. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And, so I just was like, I gotta have my tobacco. This is it. This is what I do. This is me. And if you can't accept it, you can't accept it. And I remember going into the relationship, and it was no hard feelings on him. It was just a mental mindset that I had to be put in for myself, that this is me. And if you can't accept who I am, then there's the door, and I'm going to be okay with it because I love myself that much that um, I'm not going to allow anyone else to ever come back in and abuse me again. Or if you can't accept me as who I am and you're going to throw things in my face, then there's the door again. I'm not going through that again. And it's no hard feelings. It's just, um, I'm not going to play games. We're older. This isn't, it's not high school. We've both been through divorces. And so I like dealt with that. But then as we go into the zoo, it was his turn. He ends up, because he has a service dog, And when we got in there, we had to go through some checking and stuff like that and paperwork to allow his service dog to go in there. But then they started triggering his PTSD. And he started to lose his temper. And this was what you were still going through vet court at this time, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to step in and compose and hold that space for him now so that he could make his like bring his temper down a little bit because they were really poking at his temper and making him mad. And so finally I stepped in and I just de-escalated the situation in a way to just let so that he could calm down. And I was like, I'll just let me handle this. And um, grabbed him, and then we just started walking, and we were able to walk and leave. And then as we're going through, then I started noticing PTSD that he has from war, and watching his body language, watching um, how he's looking at people, how he's scanning everybody. Look, anybody that had a backpack, he's really looking at them. Anybody that had a heavy, like a big coat on that was bulky, he's looking at them and really like on edge and looking around, and he wasn't able to just relax and enjoy himself. So I had to hold that space for him so that and keep him engaged. So it was like almost like, putting the blinders on and saying, just focus over here, look at me, pay attention to what we're doing over here. And I've got your back, I've got your six. And spiritually, I'm in tune. So just trust me that if something is wrong, if something needs to go is going to happen or whatever, I'm going to hear that before it happens, and I'll know it's time to leave when, before something happens. So just, trust. So then he was able to finally loosen up and um, enjoy walking around the zoo. But then afterwards, he wanted to go over there to the memorial wall and go walk around the memorial. And then it was back on me again. Then it was back on my trauma. And so we're walking and we go up on, there's this little bridge that we went and stopped at that kind of overlooks the whole memorial, because it kind of does this little spiral fishbowl thing. And so when you're on the bridge, it kind of is in the middle of the spiral fishbowl, so you can actually look down and see everything. And so we were sitting there, and all of a sudden I look over and a man just appeared out of nowhere, walking up the path towards us. And instantly I knew it was my ex-husband ship-shifting. And I'm like, oh, great, here we go. This guy's gonna think I'm crazy. I don't know. Not a lot of people, again, if you're non-native, know about shapeshifters and skinwalkers and these things. And so I'm like, oh, great, here we go. This clearly he's gonna see this, and he's probably gonna run for the hills now and leave me. So here we go. So again, now there's skeletons coming out of the closet. And so we're standing there, and the guy gets closer and closer. And then all of a sudden, his dog, Kenobi, he just started growling at him. And
He's not a growler.
yeah, he was literally growling at him. And the guy, as he got towards us, he was gonna try to pass us, but he stopped and he looked at us and he was like, "Is he gonna bite me?" He's like, "Is it okay to go around you?" Or like he just kept like freezing up. And Eric just kind of like stood there. He's like, "Yeah, like what's your problem, dude? Like, why can't you just walk by? Like, obviously my dog doesn't like something about you, but why can't you walk by? Why aren't you just going on by? Why do you have to ask? This is, so." But I afterwards I was like, "Did you see the look in the eyes of the guy's face?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, did you see the pitch black glass?" Because there's this like eye look in the eye, and it's like in those demonic movies that you see where the eyes are like pitch glossed and like there's no light in it. And even if you were to shine a light on it, you won't even see the reflection of the light back. It's just so pitch black. And that was the look in this face that was passing us. And so then finally he went past us, and I didn't even see where he ended up walking to after that. It's like he kind of disappeared again.
Yeah, he just like went off somewhere else or
Yeah.
something.
But Eric looked at me and he was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "Well, that would be my ex-husband coming to say hi, not wanting me to move on, like he said, because he said when we left that, or when we divorced, that he was going to do everything in his power to make it so that I either died, he took my life, or made it so that no one would ever want me again and want to be in a relationship with me, and I was going to be single for the rest of my life, is what my ex-husband like drilled into my head. No one was ever going to want me. No one was ever going to accept me for who I truly am. I'm just broken and a lost cause, basically. And so that happened, and then but Eric still just stood there, and I was like, okay, he's not running.
Mhm.
Like, like, okay, like, so then I started explaining skinwalking and skinwalkers and things like that. So then we ended up going, we weren't ready to depart yet. So we were like, well, I was like, well, there's a park further down the road. We can go drive to this park. So we end up going down, driving to the park. But then we started getting visits from shapeshifters, skinwalkers, and they were like, what, they were standing off in the distance, and you would be able to see them. And Eric started seeing them, but I wasn't saying anything because I didn't want to freak him out. But I knew they were there. But then he like looked at me and he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, that would be a skinwalker." Yep, that's what that is. So there's the door if you want to run. I understand not a lot of people can handle skinwalkers, and even the natives, there's a lot of natives that can't handle coming face to face with skinwalkers. It paralyzes them. I've seen people get paralyzed, and literally shit their pants and piss their pants because they're so freaked out by what they see. But he just stood there and was like, all right, okay, this is that. And then he's like, well, actually, back in Afghanistan, he's like, I actually saw this and this and this. And so then he started sharing some things that he experienced that's supernatural, if you want to say, in Afghanistan. So basically, what we ended up doing is we started going back and forth between our own skeletons in the closet. And what the skeletons is meaning is our trauma, things that usually in relationships, like in my past relationships, were things that were talked about later down the road, years down the road. When I realized, out of coming out of all those relationships, that the next relationship I wanted to go in, I was just going to lay it all out on the table, and you can either take it as it is or leave. And I'm going to be okay with that because I'm not going to play games. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. And so it was really hard being vulnerable in that sense, but at the same time, I was like, I got to the point where it was like, you know what? This is who I am. This is it. This is my story. And if it's too much for you, I understand. And, we can go on our own ways. But when you lay everything out on the table from the get go, it allows each other to be able to make a decision if you can accept that and the trials that are going to come within that, to move together, or you can choose to walk away and say, you know what, I thought I would be able to handle this, and you know what, out of respect, I can't, and I don't want to cause more trauma on you. I don't want to play games with you. There's enough evil in the world, let's just leave it as it is. And, thank you for your time and, go about your way. So, but instead, like in past relationships, like even like with my past marriage, there was stuff I found out 4 or 5 years later into the marriage that if I would have known from the beginning, I would have been able to help my ex-husband. I would have been able to provide services because I didn't know he was going through withdrawals from drugs and alcohol. I didn't know he was he was a pimp. He prostituted women out. I didn't know all of these things. And if I had known this when he first came up here, I would have, there was things I would have done differently to help him go through detox and to help him further, better himself and work together on that, even in past relationships. But because that information was released out of further time when there was already so much damage being done, it made it even harder to be able to embrace those things and be able to fix. By that point, it was more of like an anger of, why didn't you tell me this earlier? Because we wouldn't maybe be here at this time in this point. We could have avoided this if we would have talked about this and if we would have sat down and discussed these things and worked through it, then maybe we wouldn't be at a divorce point. But it got to that. So when I met Eric, I was just going to be vulnerable and I was going to lay all of my crap on the table. All of the skeletons are coming out of the closet. Here you go. You can choose for yourself if you want to accept it or, if you want to walk away, and there's no hard feelings. It's not a lot of people can handle the things I see and go through and experience and witness in my lifestyle. Not only that, being, can't having cancer, that's a whole nother thing of being scared to tell somebody that you have, because there's a whole fear of, what if that person doesn't want to be with someone, and what if like what if I die again one day, and that person's left with that. And it's like there's this whole thing that's like, why I don't even want to spend, waste somebody's time when I could eventually just die. But we're all going to eventually. But cancer is a different story. And my ex-husband really put that in my place too, that nobody was ever going to love me and want me because I have cancer, and whoever's going to want to love somebody, that's going to die. And that's what was embedded in my head for a long time. And so we sat there and we went through all of our stuff. So like for me, and I'll let Eric speak on, his things that he wants to share. But like for me, it was like, all right, okay, I come from abusive relationships. I have horrible PTSD. My ex-husband raped me in my sleep. So I deal with sleep trauma, and um, like there was a whole another level of things that we'll talk on a different day about those traumas and going through PTSD on both parts and how to work through that, and communicate through that. Um, and the previous relationship after my ex-husband, um, he was in a relationship, and so I was the other woman, and I'm ashamed of it. But it's my truth, and I'm going to speak on it because there's a lot of women that I've been talking to and connecting to lately that are going through this right now, that love a man that is either married or in another relationship with someone, and going through the almost like broken promises of hope that something's going to happen, but it doesn't happen. And so for me, I was fresh out of that, of coming from a man I thought I was going to have a future with. I thought that we were going to be together. I thought he was really going to leave her um, and be with me. And so I was dealing with that trauma right there of that. So then when we started dating, he was, he's still going through he was fresh going through the process of divorce and separation. And so that was triggering a lot for me. And I had to again be vulnerable and talk because I already saw that this was triggering something. But if I don't talk about what it's triggering, then how are we going to be able to move forward? And how are we going to be able to talk about this and help each other through this? So I had to be very vulnerable and tell him, I'm not really proud of this, and I can't really talk about too much about this right now because it's still fresh and I'm still processing what happened to me. Um, but this is what happened. And so there's got to be something, that we can work through to help me so that I don't go through these triggers of uh, almost like looking at him as he was my ex in that relationship, and that um there really was going to be a finish in his marriage and not going back. And so there was a lot of that fight for me, battle wise, because I kept having this fear and of going back and forth of like, well, he's just going to leave me just like the other one did, and he's gonna get all better and fixed and heal. I'm just the I don't know, fixing you up, and you're on your way to go back to your marriage and try to go salve it and things like that. And for a moment, that's just like this big mental battle I was going in my head. And but he kept coming to me and he was like, no, this isn't it. I'm not like that. I'm not doing that. I'm in a different place. I'm, I want to be here. So there was things that, we had to go and work on and talk about. But again, if I didn't talk about these things, then I get emotional and I shut down and I keep my mouth shut. Then how does anything get fixed? How does anything get solved? How do we work on things? Um, I'm, being an actor and a dancer, I am very good at hiding my pain. And I'm really good at having a smile on my face while I'm literally dying on the inside and um, in excruciating pain, and you would never know. Um, but that's that acting. I know I'm really good at hiding uh my pain. And so I had to really learn that I can't hide my pain in front of him or nothing's going to get solved. Nothing's going to get worked on. And then he's just always going to think that Rachel's fine. And Rachel's not fine. And it was really hard. Um, so we both sat there and we put our skeletons on the closet, just we opened it, and I laid all my crap on the table and he laid all his stuff on the table. And like, do you want to share anything that you want to?
Yeah.
So he'll share some things of his stuff.
So to start back at the zoo part, at that time I was still in the veterans court, and I had just ended a relationship with someone at the time. I was going through the divorce, and I had met someone through that process, and then I ended up ending that because I saw a lot of similar signs of my ex in that person. Uh, Almost, it was almost like a repeat of the night I got arrested. That it was like at night, the same thing, all the same things were happening. Like it was almost like a deja vu. Like it was all the same stuff happening, except this time I was able to compose, and I was getting my stuff, and it was the same thing. I'm not giving you your keys, I'm not giving you your phone, so I was stuck. And for any veteran who knows, especially those who've experienced the war trauma, when you get put in a position where you're stuck, well, you're gonna bulldoze your way out. You're not going to be stuck. You'll be damned if you'll be stuck. But I learned that I can't do that in this type of environment in the civilian sector because it just doesn't work unless I want to get arrested again. And I was already on probation and I was going through the veterans court treatment process. So I really couldn't. So that kind of kept it in line too. And uh, while that night was happening, I just she had made a threat, like she was on the phone, wasn't even on the phone, pretending, saying she was on the phone with the sheriff. And I said, "Oh," I said, "Okay, put it on speakerphone so that way I can tell the sheriff what's going on, and they're gonna make you leave because this is my apartment." So then after that, she got all pissed off, gave me my keys and phone, and I went to my best friend's house, Daniel. I went to his house. So she and after that, I never went back until she left. So now here's the other part, and it was another thing that was hard to bring up too, was that I had her living in my apartment and I wasn't even in there. So basically, I paid for a month of rent for me not to even live there because she had no way to get back to where she was going, to where she was from, and I could have easily thrown her out and made her figure it out, but I don't know. I'm just not like a mean. I don't know. I just for some reason I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I don't know. It was just and yeah, I don't know why I couldn't do it. And
Not in your heart to do something like that.
yeah,
That's why.
I couldn't. So it was just so that was something that came up during the zoo because Rachel asked me, she's like, "So what's up with this?" And I was kind of hesitant, and I was like, "Yeah," and I was kind of like tap dancing around, and she just kept asking different questions, and I was like, "Oh, fuck it." Yep, there's a girl freaking living there. I'm not with her no more. I haven't been back there. I'm staying with my friend Daniel in McMinnville. I haven't been back there since. I don't know when the hell she's leaving, you know. So I had to reassure her of that I wasn't even going back there, and I was literally driving to McMinnville all the way to Hillsborough, which is almost like an hour, 30-minute drive, which is hell in the wintertime. So that's what I was doing. So when I would see Rachel, I'd go to Portland. So that was about an hour drive. So she would come down to Portland to come see me because I couldn't cross the border to Washington at that time. Uh, so that's kind of how that went. And I had to like almost reassure that, and on top of going through the divorce process, that I wasn't going back through there. And all I would really say is I'm not going to go back to a place to where I literally got arrested. Like that's not gonna, it's not right. It's not healthy. And that's just what I had to keep reassuring. And over time, she slowly understood and got it once papers started moving because the attorney I had previously was she wasn't was really as proactive or communicative with me, and so that was kind of difficult. So once I switched switched attorneys, then this he was more proactive, more pushing, to get the process done, which made it easier. And I know that it settled her nerves a lot more now to where she doesn't really have any of that now because she knows it's done. So that kind of was all put at bay there. So and now as I go back a little bit, I'm jumping just because that's what's coming to my head. Go back to the memorial. We were walking. That was all that stuff was happening while we were walking through the zoo. So I had my dog with me. We're walking through the zoo and just going. I'm just like, okay, fine, here. And I just said, this is this girl, whatever. So we get to the memorial, and now from like my perspective, we're walking, and I've never seen it. I didn't even know that was there. So I thought it was really neat that they did that because it was kind of like a spiral thing that kind of went around all the way up to the top, and it has like the wall at the top with all the names. So I thought it was kind of cool. I wanted to see it. So I said, "Hey, can we go see that?" And I didn't know at the time that she had did that a year ago, and there was some trauma there. I didn't know. I was like, "Hey, that's cool," and it was military. I was like, "I want to go see." She could have said no, but she said, "Yeah, we can do that." But I picked up the vibe that something was wrong, and then like we were holding hands when we were walking, and then like I just felt like a squeeze, and I was like, "Hey, you okay?" And like I see like the composure like starting to like fall apart, and I think for like a while I just like hugged her right there because I could tell it was very, very hard. So I was like, well, we're just gonna stay here and I'm just gonna hug you until you're ready to go. So that's what I did. Probably like 5 minutes or so. I don't know, around that time. And then that's when that dude showed up out of nowhere, and my dog kind of looked at him in like a growler. And for people who know my dog, he's not really a growler. He's just a big ass goober.
Yeah.
Uh, so like, and he's pretty much cool with everyone. And the last time he growled was when I was home with my mom and my grandma, and he growled at someone outside from in the car. So that was like the last time he growled. That was probably like 6 months or something like that. So it was like long time. So that's when I knew. I don't know what the heck it was, and like how Rachel had said that the eyes were like a really dark, dark, dark color. It's like, yeah, people with brown eyes, they're dark, but they were darker than that. And that's the first thing I noticed. And he just looked very skittish, very like kind of like crouched in like that and was trying to like, can I pass? And I was like, yeah. Like Kenobi was not having it. He went like all the way to the edge and then walked around like, and then he just kind of went off somewhere. Um, so we did, and then after that, we kind of walked up the spiral some more, and we were talking, and she was kind of explaining to me what she did with the color guard while she was there, and I thought it was kind of cool that they do that every year there. And we get to the top and looking at the names, and she was starting to kind of lose it a little bit again. So it was more just some more affection because I know that's what helps with something like that. It's just I was just there, just to comfort, to kind of get through that. And it was kind of cool seeing the names on the wall and kind of just hearing her side of what she did there. And once we finished with that, we walked back towards our cars. I mean, you can only do so much at the zoo, and you can see the animals. And well, the Kenobi saw like the elephant, and he was just like doing all this, turning his head like because he didn't know what that thing was. It was kind of funny. Uh, I don't know how far it was. It was like 5 minutes away. It was like an open field that kind of went down. So it's kind of like for those who know, read a map, it's like a depression. So it was like it went down, almost like part of a saddle, and it went. It was like a basin, like a bowl. So you could feel the coldness there because it was just colder down there when we walked down there. And we were there walking and talking, and we was running around and stuff, and we were just kind of just like not really talking. We were just kind of throwing stuff out there of, hey, this is this is that, and we were kind of just throwing our things around like just so everything was out there. Like I've done this, I've seen this, I've experienced this. This is what happened here. Uh, Everything from my side that we'll cover in like another podcast. But once it was time to go, well, it was getting darker and it was getting colder. So we walked back to the up the little hill back to where our cars were parked, and we ended up hanging out, staying there talking till like what 1, 2, something like that. Like we were just like talking and just like really just not really about anything specific, just more just good conversation about stuff. And she was like explaining to me like a lot of Native American history and cultures and things because like she said all those I still call them things because I saw like some things out there. So I thought it was like maybe an animal, but I was, oh no, it doesn't really. And you see them really fast. They're like dark and they kind of like will be there and then they'll kind of just go kind of stuff, especially when it comes to like supernatural type things. Um, I'm not advocating that they are fake or real. I just know what I experience and what I feel and what I see. Um, and I saw it was because it was dark. Like once the sun went down in that place, like there was no more. You can't see the hill going down. Like it was just a big ass dark thing down there. But it was light enough to where you could see something like go whoop, and go across, and like what the hell is that? So at first I would like dismiss some things, like okay maybe because you know how sometimes if you're looking like this and you see something like out of your corner of your eye, but it's just like the way your head moves, or like if it's something in the house and you kind of see like and it's just that. Yeah, well, that wasn't that because there's no objects down there except trees, and trees don't move. So, so, well, there you go. But so that's what I was experiencing down there, and it was like probably like 1 or 2 in the morning. Um, by the time I think some truck drove up and was like, "Hey, you guys like need to leave soon, and we're like, leave soon. He's like, yeah, because everything's closed, and you guys. It was like some truck driving back and forth. I don't know.
What's
Must
their security
yeah, security.
person that drives around the area?
Yeah, so we ended up doing that, hanging out, walking, and then now another part of another thing that had to come out was the person that was living in the place, I ended up getting a rental car for them so they can leave because I wanted my apartment back. Even though I really didn't stay there too long because I was with Daniel and then I ended up coming here with Rachel, but I wanted my place back because I was paying for something that I wasn't even in and I was done. So I got the rental car. And I didn't really say nothing right away to Rachel because I was like, well, this is something for me. I'm just going to handle it and then be done. But I had to tell her when the person returned the rental car almost 3 weeks late. One answered the calls. Then there was damage to the rental car, which I don't even know how that's possible. Somehow uh, ended up only being me on the rental name, so I couldn't even hold the person accountable. And then now it went to collections because I was like, I can't afford to pay the damage for that. It was like 1,200 to 1,300 bucks of damage. And I don't even know how the heck. And I ended up having to tell her about it because it was starting to frustrate me and irritate me. And she was asking me what's wrong, and I was like, well, fuck, here we go. This is what happened. Remember that girl? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, this is what happened. Rental car and this, and I think she didn't even get mad. She just looked at me like, dang, like, more of like, you did that, and I was like, well, yeah, because I wanted gone. I didn't have to. She was more like, you didn't have to do that. I think she was more like, what's the word? More, not surprised, but
No, it was more like, okay, here I'll just say. So my thought that came through was like, damn, here's this guy that um is literally giving his whole entire paycheck to his ex for spousal support and for child support when he does not have to be giving them his whole entire paycheck. Um, my ex-husband did not pay child support, refused to pay child support. I was the one that paid his child support. When they came after him for child support, he quit his job so that they had nothing to come after him for money and made me work and pay it. Then he would do tattoo work under the table and make money under the table. So then again, nothing was, he didn't have to be held accountable and pay child support. It was me because I felt bad. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, okay, this guy is literally, she is literally treating him like freaking hell, and he's still taking care of her and the kids and keeping them in their home when he could have easily kicked them out of his house um, and put them on the street, but he's the one that walked out and got his own apartment. Then I'm like, and then he's got this girl that's abusive again, living in his apartment while he's living over here at Daniel's house. He could have easily kicked her out on the street, but again, he didn't. Then he puts her in a car and drive, so she can drive back to where she's from, states away, and did it. And so my mind, I was just like, wow. I was like, so literally, if that were me, that's how I would be treated. And I was like, huh, like this is a really good guy. Like what the hell? I would tell him, I was like, I know so many people that go through divorces and these types of crazy relationships, and I have never heard anyone that is literally giving their whole entire paycheck away to an abusive narcissist ex-wife, and then letting a crazy girl that he could have easily like put out on the street and said, I don't care, you're on your own, deal with it, but had the heart to keep her and let her stay there until she could get back. So for me, it was like, wow, this he really has a good heart. He's not your normal, he's not normal. Not normal. But I actually had more respect for you because you did that instead of easily just kicking him out and saying, I don't give a fuck. There's the door, leave my apartment. But you didn't. So
Yeah, I see this image that or this picture that comes up a lot of the times, and it has the guy from I can't remember his name. He plays in the movie Venom. He's the main character, and he's sitting there and he's going like this, right? And it is true, especially with me. It says I'm generally a decent guy. So if I'm acting like an asshole to you, you need to figure out why I'm acting that way, because it's if I'm being mean to you or if I'm being just a straight dick, there's a reason why. There's a reason why I'm being that way because I'm generally not like that. I made a lot of mistakes in my marriage. Yeah, I made a ton, um, a lot. So I figured I was like, okay, let me go ahead and try. Now I can't repair them or fix them, but at least so I know that hey, this is what I can at least do to at least kind of balance it a little, but without tipping it too much to one side where I'm being taken advantage of. So that's kind of the way I see that. So if I'm being a certain way to you that's not nice, you probably need to evaluate why I'm not being that way. Um, but even then, like it takes a lot to push me to that point. It takes a lot. And people who knew me in the army knew like I didn't yell. I wasn't really a screamer. So when I got loud, everybody stopped and looked and like, oh, Sergeant Castillo is pissed because he's yelling, which wasn't uh, a thing that happened all the time. Like people who just naturally yelled, you just tune them out and like, oh, they're just yelling again. But when I yelled, huh, everything stopped. Training stopped. Everything stopped because they're like, why is he yelling? Something's wrong. And I try to take that with everywhere I go. And it's just a lot of the tools of just learning how to just not be so reactive and it was like through my previous marriage, there was a lot of like roller coaster. I'd be reactive, then I would shut down, then I'd be defensive, then I would shut down. So it was kind of like back and forth in that until here now being with Rachel, I don't have to be that way because it's just talk about it. Like, hey, this is what's bothering me. Like a huge thing that if you want to try it actually works when something is wrong or you feel a certain way is like I learned this in the domestic violence class I had to go through, which is part of Veterans Court. It was like it's like a fill in the blanks, but like and you plug in your feelings, and then it says when you do this, I feel this. Uh, so when I do this, you feel this. No shit, hold on. When you do this to me, like say when you call me dumb, I feel like I'm shut down and I don't do it no more. Can we talk about this instead so that way I don't feel that way again? Or can you please not do that because it makes me feel this way? So when you put all that together and actually do it, it actually works really well because you're telling them how you feel and why it makes you feel that way.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, if you even look at arguments and being since we've both been in so many, a lot of the times when you're in an argument, the initial point of an argument fades away because now other stuff starts coming up because now you're just trying to cheap shot of who's gonna do who's gonna win, and then the core of the problem is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go ask someone what you were arguing about, you probably won't even remember because now you're saying this, you're talking about 2 years ago, you're talking about whatever else is going on instead of just talking about what happened right then and there without having to get mad, without having to yell. And if you need a moment, like one of the things they also said taught me is like, if you need to take a second, but don't take like an hour and then not address it because it's still going to be there. Take 10 minutes to kind of just bring that adrenaline down and then readdress it because it's still fresh and it's still there. When you can talk through that, it actually be mature and not interrupt when someone's talking. So it's literally this is literally keys to active listening in communication. I actually learned this in school too through psychology. So you have to be able to.
I was taught this growing up.
Yeah. See. So it was like you when someone talks, you don't say anything, and then when they're done talking, you repeat the beginning of what they just said. Like, okay, I see why you were feeling like this, and this is why I reacted the way I did. So you have to repeat almost kind of what they initially started with, so that way, A, they know that you heard them, B, you're listening, and then C, you're responding with why you reacted a certain way. So when you do all of those, you're able to solve the problem that's there, and then you have to let it go. And that's the challenging part, is you have to let it go and not bring it up again, because now the problem is solved. There's no more problem. So why bring it up again if the problem was solved in a healthy way?
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
Mhm. Portland State University psychology. That's what that is.
I will have to say though, like for me though, because there's a whole nother level of spiritual aspect of things that happen sometimes. And there has been moments where like stuff has come up for me and I had to take longer than 10 minutes to walk away. But at the same time, there's that communication that's like, okay, I'm hearing you, but at the same time, I have a migraine. I can feel my cancer flared up at the moment. There's spiritual attack happening right now, and I'm hearing and feeling all of these things, and I am literally overwhelmed right at this moment. And I need to put this on pause for a second until this de-escalates over here so that I can come back with a clear mind. And it's not that I'm dismissing you, it's not that I'm dismissing the problem or anything. We will come back to it, trust me. I just have to take care of this stuff over here for a second and quiet it down and put the extinguisher out so I can come back and talk. And sometimes it's like I'm like, I got to put myself in a timeout for a moment. And I literally go put myself in a timeout. And but I communicate, I'm feeling this, I'm being triggered, or um, I need, I don't know what's going on at this moment. There's a fluster of things that's running through right now. So let me just go sit in a quiet place for a moment and wait until this little storm dies down so that I can actually uh, see what is going on rather than acting on emotion.
And that was hard for me, because being in my whole life in the military, basically, when you're dealing with problems, you fix them right there. Boom, boom, fix, 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 fix. And with my previous relationships, that it was opposite. If there was a problem, I would get cold shouldered, and when I want to talk about it, it wouldn't go anywhere. So I had to remember and tell myself that this wasn't it. And I basically I had to trust her. I didn't have a choice. I had to, because well, it's not saying I had a choice. I had a choice. I chose to trust her, because I had to tell myself that this wasn't previous relationships. And it was a battle sometimes, because I'm used to kind of getting at the problems like right away. And I know, and I'm still working through it still. It's better, but I know that sometimes Rachel needs time to um sort things out. So, and I just constantly tell him, I tell myself, hey, it's not that, it's not this, it's not, you're not getting iced out or cold shouldered or anything. So, and I'm getting better with that, a lot better. I know when she wants to talk about it, she'll come back. I know it won't go not untalked about. Um, and even if it's at night, we won't go to bed mad or angry.
It'll get discussed before bed.
It'll get discussed before bed.
And the other thing, never talk about these things while you're in bed.
Yeah.
Don't talk about these things in the bedroom. Leave the bedroom out of it. You go somewhere else to sit and talk about things. Don't do that in the bedroom. Don't bring, past relationships and things into the bedroom and bringing that energy into that sacred space, because there's been moments and times, because I know we got to wrap this up soon, but there's been moments and times where he's tried to talk about things and while we were just sitting in bed, and I like look at him and I'm like, no, either you got to put this on hold or we got to leave the bedroom, because I don't want this energy brought in here, and this is a sacred space, so we got to take this outside. So that's one thing that was always taught, from my mom, is that, your room, that's your sacred space. Your house is a sacred space, but your room is a sacred space, and never take those energies to the bedroom. Leave that outside the bedroom, do that in the kitchen or the living room or outside, or if you have an office or other sitting rooms. I don't know how, if you have a big house, there's more rooms to go talk in than your bedroom. And to leave that out of it. Don't argue in the bedroom. Just do step outside of it. But even then, if you can really put your emotions down and like literally imagine like the when chaos happens, like you're in the eye of the hurricane. And this is what I have to do. I have to literally sit and ground myself in the eye of the hurricane. And as you sit there, you have to view and watch. It's almost like you're slowing things down in a matrix to view and watch what is floating by and going on around you so that you can actually make the right conscious decisions and choices without reacting to something. And then because if you react to it, then all of a sudden you'll just get pulled into that whirlwind, and then who knows where that could go. And then there's just like a domino effect of emotions. And I've been down that road, just allowing my emotions to go, and it's toxic. um so I think, like, I real quick, I'll just touch this on this last little story real quick, because there's an experience that I actually had with this that I'm talking about. I won't go into very detail, but it was in Florida, back in 2000, I think it was 2010, 2011. I was down there, and I was in a small hurricane down there, and there was a 90 100-mile-hour winds, and I was doing a gyrotonic training, and I had to walk about a mile to the training facility from where my hotel was. And so there was alerts going off, and I had to hurry, and I was on my break, and I had to hurry and rush to get to my training. And so I'm running through the streets, and the rain starts pouring and lightning shooting out of the streets, and there's just all this chaos happening. The streets are literally filling up with water and flooding all over the place. And by the time I got to my training, there was already 2 feet of water in the ground, outside. The palm trees were literally like leaning over sideways. And when I got there, everyone was rushing in from some chaos, and each person had their own story of what happened in the midst of the chaos of getting there, trying to get to our training or certification. And so it was really cool to see all of this chaos, all these people coming in from with all these different experiences of how they had to go through the storm to get to this place. But then we get into this place, and then there was probably about 12, 13 of us, and we get in there, and then all of a sudden we sit in the circle and we start meditating, and we start going through our training, and we're sitting in this meditation. And all of a sudden, like, I for the first time, I felt what I'm talking about. It's the sense of being in the eye of the hurricane. And it was in that moment in time that I realized that in life, when things are chaotic, that you have to find that peaceful place. You have to be able to find the place where you can be grounded and silent. And even though there's this storm going on around you, you have to stay connected. You have to stay connected to Creator. You have to stay grounded. You have to stay connected to yourself, or you are going to get pulled through that whirlwind, and it will take you. And I've been taken by that whirlwind so many times. And that's why I always talk about staying in the eye of the hurricane. It always goes back to this moment of time when I was in this place where you literally had to, it was easy for us to all go stand at the window and watch the storm. But then at the same time, it was even more powerful to be able to sit in that place, in quiet place, and just trust that, Creator is going to take care of it all, and that you're just observing and you're watching that storm go around you, and there's lessons within that And if you can sit back and observe and watch, then it's going to be easier to go through the storms of your life. So I'm just going to leave that with you guys for today. And yeah, so that's those who always wonder what I'm talking about, saying the eye of the hurricane. It literally goes back to that moment and point in my life where I had to stay calm in the middle of that storm. And from that moment on, it taught me to stay in this quiet place when chaos is going on around you, or else you're going to get taken for that whirlwind in that storm, and you're going to get taken to another place, and who knows how long it's going to take you to get back. But if you can sit back and you can stay calm and collected and observe, and then make healthy decisions from that, and um, really look at what's going on around you rather than reacting to what's going on around you, then you're going to start seeing a shift in your life, when it comes to storms in your life, and being able to really grab the reins with your own hands and drive your own car. So, you have anything else to finish?
No, that's pretty good. For anyone, if there's new people watching and you're not knowing what the heck we're at or what's going on, go to our page, Straight Couch Talk Podcast, and you go to the videos tab and you can catch up. You can watch the first one. This is the third one, so you can kind of catch to see where we're at in case you kind of jumped in and started watching today and you're like, what's happening? Cool, but what's going on? So just make sure you do that, or you can go to YouTube,
YouTube.
or YouTube, same name, and you can find it there also. So
And also we're on Anchor as well, so we have the audio podcast out there too, so you can just listen to the audio on Anchor FM, and that is Straight Couch Talk Podcast. So
if you're driving, you can listen.
Alrighty, guys, thank you for tuning in, and
Thank
stay
you.
tuned. We'll be hopping on again during this Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep. See ya.
See you.